Hey everyone, welcome to the Truth About Real Estate podcast. And today we are talking with Cristina Kudlock from Miss Property Solutions. Cristina is the founder of Miss Property Solutions, where she helps clients sell their homes quickly and easily in just 3 easy steps. Today we're going to discuss SEO, how it affects marketing, how it affects home buying process, and how she buys properties for cash, specifically in the Los Angeles area. And she's also located in Phoenix, Arizona. So welcome to the show, Christina. Let's look forward to talking to you.
Hello?
Yeah, you hear me? Cool, come on.
Hey, sorry, it froze there for a
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, we're just saying at first, welcome to the show. Excited to talk to you about marketing, SEO, lead gen, and specifically buying properties for cash.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I'm excited to be here.
First off, I want to ask you, how did you get started in real estate and why?
Yeah, so I first got started in real estate. I picked up a book on wholesaling and was like, "What? You can do that?" I didn't know that was a thing. I had tried to kind of dabble in real estate before, and usually what most people think when they want to get started in real estate, they'll say, "Oh, I'll go get my real estate license," right? So I did that for a time, really didn't enjoy it, and then a few years later, yeah, I picked up a book. It was like this 2.99 cent $2.99 ebook on Amazon, and it was all about like getting started in wholesaling. And yeah, I was just like, my mind was blown. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that that was something that you can do, and that's what led me here.
Isn't it pretty interesting that you can get started in real estate and without using your own money and start using other people's money, start doing wholesaling, start learning more about the ins and outs of it. And as a wholesaler, there's a lot of different categories of things to learn. What did
Yeah.
you start learning as a wholesaler? Like, did anyone teach you to get started besides the book?
Yeah, so from there, I did do a few like coaching programs and was a part of like different. When I first started my real estate journey, I was just moving to Los Angeles. I'm from Phoenix. That's where I am. I'm back in Phoenix now, but I moved over to LA and was like, you know what? Instead of at the beginning of it, I was trying to look for a job. I was an executive assistant for a logistics company in Phoenix and had like 6 years of experience doing that. So I was like, I'm going to find another executive assistant job. But then when I was looking for jobs is when I stumbled across the concept of wholesaling. So I was like, I'm going to do this instead. And so I moved to LA. It was a completely new market to me. But real estate was new to me as well. So I just started there. And yeah, I joined a few like investors clubs just to like rub shoulders with other people who were doing it. And then, was kind of from there starting to learn about marketing because as a wholesaling as a wholesaler or a wholesaling company, that's really what it is more than anything, is a marketing machine for finding leads and whatnot. So that's when I started getting just learning more about lead generation, which was something that I had never done before. And yeah, did pretty much have tried every lead gen strategy in the book. So that's kind of what what got me off the ground.
Nice. And it's really interesting. You bring up the word, real estate marketing, lead gen, and learning to create funnels, for example, right?
Right.
So, when you go into real estate, like, the first part of the mind of real estate is like, okay, I want to buy and sell houses. I don't really think about the marketing side. For
Right.
real estate agents, they might think about, okay, I'm going to help buy and sell houses. But wholesalers, when they start doing real estate, they start thinking about how do I start creating marketing funnels, right? It's
Totally.
kind of interesting. Two different things, but they're all the same product. So why is it that, like real estate agents thinking about the sales side of things first, while wholesalers start thinking about the marketing side of things first, right?
Yeah, that I had never thought of it that way, but that's true. That's so true.
So yeah, let's kind of dive into that first. The first part of the marketing side of things. As a wholesaler, you start learning about marketing. Like you mentioned, okay, you're going to start learning about how to market, how to advertise, how to do lead campaigns, how to attract sellers who are looking to sell their property, and
Mhm.
how to have cash, offers, right?
Right.
Why do wholesalers start looking at the marketing piece first?
Well, I mean, because you really do need to have a steady stream of incoming leads to be able to try to convert. I would say that finding people who are willing to sell at wholesale is probably much harder than someone who just wants to list their house. So you
Mhm.
really do need a steady stream of leads coming at you to be able to consistently convert them into deals. So
Okay, so creating inbound marketing, creating a steady stream of leads coming in so
mhm.
that you can contact them to follow up to see what their goals are, right?
Right. Whether it's inbound or outbound, like both
Okay,
different kinds of marketing, but just leads coming in for sure.
okay, leads coming in, okay. And how, like, for when you're first starting off, and think back when you first started 7 years ago, what did you do to start figuring out how to bring inbound leads?
One of the first things I actually started was with door knocking. And that was, I think, a good move for me because it got me having conversations right from the get go, right? And there's something to be said. I mean, it's probably a little bit more daunting to have those conversations face to face than over the phone or through texting, all these other different kinds of streams of ways you can talk to people. But it really just kind of like gets you right in there. You have no choice but to just show up and give it all you got, I think. So having that face to face and being at people's door really got me comfortable with rejection very fast, and that's something that I think you really do in real estate, or especially as a wholesaler, have to have. You can't take no's too personally, right? You got to just like move on to the next one. No's to me are probably better. It's better than a maybe, right? We hear that often. So, and just getting comfortable with having conversations, and I think being face to face too, while it might be a little bit more scary up front, it is also more comfortable once you get doing it, right? Because people might hang up with on you on the phone or might be a little bit ruder to you on the phone, but when you're face to face, you get less people who are like big and bad, right? You do like get people are a little bit more graceful.
And I
That was
like
my
that. I think, for example, door knocking is one of the hardest. I would say in real estate, door knocking is one of the hardest in a sense because you really have to grind it out, go door to door, be open to getting rejection in your face in person, and
right,
also to get yeses and nos. But the point being of door knocking is really to try to create a lasting impression, try to create a relationship, try to see if they need help and talk to them. As a
right,
wholesaler, you're asking a specific question to them if they're looking to buy at a certain price point, and you're targeting trying to help specific people to sell their property, right?
right,
Because you're looking through it. But when you think about the sales side of things, it's hard because you're actually asking people to their face, and most likely people are not going to slam the door in your face as easily as a phone or a text or
right,
email. So you can have a conversation, and if you can get your foot in the door, and it's like, hey, okay, this looks like a nice person to talk to. What does she want? Okay, she's gonna ask me a question. Okay, great. I'm open to listening right now.
right,
On a text, I'm busy. I'm just gonna ignore it. On an email, I
right.
don't even look at it. On a phone call, spam. Every call I get is a unknown number, probably spam. Pick it up, spam. Okay, hang up, right? So that in-person conversation equals a lot of weight, but at the same time takes a lot more work to do it.
It does. It's
It
that's
does.
why I don't door knock anymore. But yeah, it was a good like little starter step for sure.
Okay, good. And then how, for example, just thinking about that, how long did you do that for? Why did you just decide not to do that? And what did you do instead?
Yeah, so I did that for a good almost 6 months, I would say,
Mhm.
and was doing some other forms of marketing too. But at that time is when I started cold calling and realized I can touch a lot more people just cold calling than I can door knocking. So then I started with cold calling. I got into SEO, did some stuff like bandit signs and was never really big into texting, but SEO, that's kind of when I started really getting into SEO. And I didn't have at the time when I started, I really didn't have a big budget. And so because I was doing it full time, I didn't have like I had savings, right? But I didn't have a steady income to keep my machine going. So I did look for like lower cost kinds of strategies. And it was around this time that I discovered SEO, and I had never heard of SEO before. I don't have a technical background whatsoever. But I was really kind of intrigued by it. And I remember hearing, I'm not sure if it was a podcast or someone at one point said, SEO is the only lead generation strategy that actually gets cheaper over time. And I was like, that's cool. That's something to look into, right? But I looked at a few different like marketing companies or SEO firms to do my SEO for me, and it wasn't in my budget at the time. So I was like, you know what, I'll just learn it myself. And it did kind of turn out to be a little blessing in disguise, because it did teach me like a lot of really cool stuff. And now I know SEO, definitely more than the average person. So and it has been just the best lead generation strategy of any other channel that I've dealt with. So
Nice. And let's talk about that too. Before we talk about that part of it, you mentioned cold calling.
mhm,
When you started, now you realize, okay, door knocking was a lot of work, took a lot of time, energy. You're out on the field looking, and you're taking that much time for one person, when cold calling, for example, can talk to many more people really quickly, right? And you can
right.
ask yes, no questions. And if it's no, you're moved on to the next person. So you're becoming more numbers based, right? And driven that way. But in terms of cold calling, what happened when you started cold calling? How did you start cold calling? And what kind of results did you see?
Yeah. So when I first started cold calling, it was me actually doing the dialing myself. I got a dialer and whatnot. And after I did it and it was successful, I would get, a few deals. But the thing with you being your own cold caller is that you're consistent on cold calling, right? You drum up some leads, and then actually working those leads, driving out to properties, all of what it takes to dispo them takes you off of the phones, right? And so I would get into this continuous slump where I would get a few deals, and then 2 months would go by, and then it'd be on the third month again, I'd get a few deals. So it's just like kind of this up and down roller coaster, because I was the one cold calling. So then, I eventually hired VAs, and they did cold calling, did the calling for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And when you're doing cold calling, were you using like a triple line dialer, a single line dialer, your cell phone, just dialing one by one, and
No, yeah.
CRM?
Yep, using a dialer. I believe I started with Mojo with their
Mhm.
triple line dialer, and then in my years of cold calling, we've done everything from Call Tools, Zen Call, Mojo. I wouldn't say I haven't been cold calling for a few years now, but
Nice.
yeah, cool. I like the leads that raise their hand and are like looking for you, as opposed to there's the hunter and the gatherer kind of analogy. And I like being a gatherer, and putting my message out there and having people come to me. Those leads are just so much easier to convert. They take much less follow up, and just that less touches before they convert into a deal. So now I've just built my business, so it's all inbound digital marketing.
I love it. I love it. Because, for example, you think about this too in the real estate sales side of things. Okay, there's so many different ways to do things. But of course, I think many people just choose the obvious. It's been done. People do it. I'll just do it. I don't want to learn something new. It
Right,
is new for the new agent, for a new wholesaler, but they're going to try it because everyone said they did it. It worked. So, for
right,
example, going back door knocking, it works. It takes a lot of work. It takes time. People say you should do it because it works. That's
right,
one way. And then they say, hey, you should do cold calling. But most people hate cold calling. I hate picking up the phone. I hate getting hanged up on. I hate interrupting people, for example, or I think they're busy. Maybe
right.
not. So people still do that. But then the next phase of things too is realizing that there's an abundance of people out there. There's an abundance of houses out there. If you can learn a different method, such as real estate marketing, digital marketing, SEO strategies, advertising strategies, which is a different field, it's marketing field, right? And
Right.
learning that tool can create a abundance of knowledge sharing, creating it time so people can research you, find you on your time, on their time, and connect with you on their time. So like you mentioned, inbound marketing, where they're raising their hand to reach out to you rather than you go hunting for them. That's way better. It's way more fun. It's easier. The conversations are easier because they reached out to you. They want your help, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. When you're cold calling, you have people, we go through and try to hit like all the pillars of motivation, right? So why do you want to sell? And people are like, you called me. I'm just trying to see how much you're going to offer, right? It's a completely different conversation than somebody who filled out a form online or is actually calling you and you ask them why they want to sell and they like spill their life to you, right? It's just like two completely different conversations.
Isn't that funny? It's two different conversations because like jumping back to the cold calling and door knocking, you're asking them, you're interrupting their life to ask them questions to see if it's even relevant. You don't even know if it's relevant. But on the opposite spectrum, when you have inbound leads coming to you, filling out your form, the conversation completely changes.
Yeah.
They tell you their life, they spill what's going on. They ask if you guys are interested, can you do it? What would you do it for? What would you buy it for? And then your conversation is yes, no, this makes sense, this does not make sense, this is what we can do, you want it or not. So the
Right.
conversation becomes so much easier. But the challenge I see here too for salespeople, agents, and wholesalers is like, why do people start on this side of things in door knocking, cold calling, and why and when do they realize, hey, learning this different tool, marketing, automation, SEO, can be really vital. It is a different category to learn. I think and some people never go that way. They just say, hey, website's a website. I don't even touch it, right? No one looks at it. No one looks at it.
Well, and that's especially true too. Most people, when they do get a website, they set it up and then kind of let it sit there. They just set up a website. They're not actually that's not exactly SEO, right?
Yep.
Their
Not.
SEO is the process of ranking it. But most people exactly like they just want something to put on their business card to look legit and be able to like have a landing place for people to go. But that's not exactly SEO. And I do think that especially real estate investors, we're like, we need results right now. And that's not SEO, right? SEO, it took me a year before I was consistently getting leads from my website and people coming to me. And most people are like, no, I can, because you can, get a cold caller and you can have leads that same day, that same week, right? And that's not the case with SEO. It's a long-term strategy, and most people, everybody wants results right now, and so it's usually something people put on the back burner. But
Yeah, and you're right. So, for example, getting instant gratification. I know if I door knock and cold call and I hit this number, it's going to work. X results, X dollars, right? But
right,
in marketing and online digital marketing, I don't know what's going to work. I don't even know if I can do it. I don't know how much I need to spend. I don't know who's going to look at it. I don't have any result to track. So therefore, I'm not going to bother, right?
right.
So that's the
That's
point of it.
it.
That's pretty much what I see out there, and what I think, and I tell people, realize this. I think one person said this. One person I saw before. Your website is just not a website. It's actually your online store. Imagine this. I go to your store. It's empty. Do you think I want to come back? Not really. If you were Amazon and you had a physical location, it's going to be packed. But guess what? Amazon's online too, right? Their online website is more packed. And they have everything you can think of in the world is on Amazon. They built it out so that way you are always there, you're always on it, you're looking for anything you need, it's there. You get it shipped the same day, same hour to you. Crazy how much they invest into their online presence. But
Right.
as real estate, people see it as, oh, it's just a secondary method to my business. It's just a placeholder to look good, even though I don't use it. But
Exactly.
if you actually invested in it and you treated it as an investment, not an expense, and you spent money investing into the content, into the SEO, into the performance, then it can become a real business online.
Exactly. And people they're either too busy chasing the easy leads, or it's just it is a little bit confusing too, right? If you don't have some sort of and most people, like when I start to talk about like technical aspects of SEO, I can see like their eyes are glazing over. It's not interesting for a lot of people. It happens to be interesting for me, but I would say most people, they'd rather just hire it out to somebody else and have them do it, because it's just like, man, I don't want to talk about backlinks and, contents and stuff like that. But one of the things that I always kind of caution people with when they're like, who should I go to? What's a good SEO company? And I can't say that I've found one that's like a one-stop shop for everything. There's like, I might use one place for this and this and this, but and how can you judge if you don't know anything about SEO? How can you judge that, like, okay, this person, what this person's doing is legit, or this person, no, that's just a bunch of spammy stuff that they're going to be doing for you, right? You have no gauge of being able to like judge these companies, and it can be something that is very easy to just throw money at and you're not going to get the results for. So I do always think having some sort of like a basis understanding of what it is you're at least paying someone for is so important.
Yeah, and I agree. And let's go to this. Okay, for example, for those out there who are not tech savvy, who are it's something new to explore, I think there's a couple key points that you can take a look at. Like really, Google it. For example, Googling it. Okay, I'm gonna Google the top search engine companies, search engine optimized companies for real estate specific, and then you take a look at their websites. Does it impress you? Is it the first one found? If it's the last one found, you don't want to go to them. If that's the
Right.
first one found, first three, take a look at all three. And
Right.
then take a look at the next thing when you start looking at it. When you read their website, how captivating are they? How are they emphasizing what they're saying? And does it resonate with you? And does it look like it's going to help you? It does, then great. Is their grammar good? Is spelling good? Everything they say is good. Is their call to actions good, for example, and just marketing in general?
Right.
And okay, next part of it. What's the cost to all three of them? Okay, one's crazy, too expensive for corporations. Great, don't use them. The next one seems okay, worth a shot, and the third one seems too cheap. Well, okay, too cheap might not make sense because you get what you pay for, and then you start the next process of this. Go look at the reviews. Go Facebook search them, Yelp search them, Google search the companies, see what kind of reviews you're getting, and see if you can find anything about those companies. And then you start seeing that. And the third part of it is take a test. Try it for a month. Don't sign a 1-year contract. Try to say, hey, I'll try you out. Give me a month. If it works, it does or doesn't.
Mhm.
But from there, you can kind of learn too. Okay, how are they doing things? What's it like? Some companies cheat. I'll do the same thing for every single person and just charge all of you the same price. So it doesn't really help each other individually, and they're
Right.
just liking it. Like for example, typing the word keyword real estate for SEO. None of us are going to win. Zillow's going to win because they pay the most money, right? So that doesn't work for you. If they're doing that, isn't it? It'll just be like a percent, but it doesn't even add real value. What are they doing to add real value to your marketing? How are
Right.
they making you different for your different market, for your different price point? So then you start learning more about the SEO. And SEO is search engine optimization, right? So for those, what are you doing? You're optimizing the search for you and what you're trying to provide to people. How do
Yeah.
you do that? And like, what are you doing? How do you do it? And who to use it for. So in case you're in your instance, you started learning SEO. Did you try a couple of different companies out there? And what did they give? What kind of results did they try to help you with?
Yeah, I did try a few different ones. I went the like more high tier end, and then I've also done the lower end just to see like the difference in what I was getting. One of the things that I would say that like you want to be just like cautious of is like links just for links. Oftentimes you'll get like some spammy links. They're like on PBN sites, which is like private blog networks, blogs that exist just to create links. It's not like they're actually giving any value. So just looking for a place that's going to give you links that are like very strategic, that are actually going to bring you traffic. They're well placed, and they're actually going to be something that like you get traffic from, right? So those are always like are good. And then I have done like with an Indian like a company overseas, and depending on the work that you need to be done, like oftentimes or with SEO, one of the huge things that you'll be paying for is content is really important. So you really don't want to go for content at anywhere that's not like American or maybe like UK based, because you want the content to be really high quality, especially if it is going to be on your site. um, and just you really want to look for somewhere that's going to do like a kind of all around, do really good competition research for you so that they know what kinds of pages that they should be building, because you don't necessarily want to just create more content just for the sake of more content, right? You want to like be strategic about it and see, okay, all of your competitors, what are their top pages? What are they actually bringing in their leads from, right? What kind of articles are they posting that are bringing them traffic, and go and create a piece of content like that on your website that's even better to hopefully, beat them on the rankings for what is bringing them traffic. So stuff like that, I think is really important.
That's good because, for example, when you start investing into your website and your content marketing, yeah, you're talking about content and you're trying to see what's different out there for your market and how you can answer questions. So you start thinking about, okay, what questions are buyers looking, especially for cash offers, what questions are they asking out there?
Mm-hmm.
And you start seeing, okay, if I Google it right now for my market in Los Angeles, who do you find? Okay, and when you look at their websites, what do you see? Is that information valuable? Are they ranking well? Can you make something that's the same? Can you make something different? If it's the same, Google doesn't care so much. If everyone's the same, it actually dings you because you're copying someone else's. So when you start creating original content, that content is getting more valuable. But as people find it easier and digest it more and more, then the ranking goes back up again, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So that's a part of it, but that's the investment because now you're telling me, okay, not on top of wholesaling or real estate sales, I gotta do content marketing, and I need to. If I don't write well or I don't speak well, I need to go hire someone. I need to find someone to write it for me in my area they don't even know about. That's tough, right?
It is. There's a lot of facets to it.
Yeah, and like, oh, I don't have the energy or time for that. I need to hire someone out there, but I don't know who to hire. So therefore, I don't do any of this. But in order to really think about it, is like, okay, when you do real estate sales or you're a wholesaler, you have a business. You need to reinvest into your business. So as a business owner, you need to learn that a business owner has so many different categories. You have all departments as a business owner. And then you need marketing as a part of your business. You need to attract. You can pay for Zillow leads. You can pay for other leads, but you're paying like what, 1,000 per lead, for example, if you even close it, or some per zip code costs a lot. But in SEO, like you mentioned, SEO gets cheaper over time. So if you invest in your SEO, invest in your content, it gets cheaper over time. And also, like you mentioned, the conversion gets way higher, way easier, more conversion, more inbound. You wake up every day, you have a fresh bucket of leads come in, and all you're doing is asking, what can you do for them?
Right. Yeah.
So that's fun. That's fun, right? That's the fun part. Mm-hmm.
I would add to that, just for my personality and my skill set, I'm like naturally more of an introvert, and talking to people all day on the phones like really just didn't do it for me. And so SEO, I'm like, I kind of figured out, I could just kind of like geek out on this on my own at my computer, and then people, like the more motivated ones, start to come to you on their own, and it's perfect.
Isn't that's really nice? And like, let's dive into that. Okay, so you started creating content. Did you write the content yourself? Did you start searching and competition ranking search your other competitors? And did you hire any ghostwriters, or how did you build the content out first?
Yeah. So to begin with, I was doing all my own content. Now I'm at the point where no, I pretty much don't write anything for my site. I have a few different ghostwriters, and then but yeah, because I actually do enjoy writing, but the kind of writing that the kind of writing I would enjoy more so is like creative writing, which probably isn't so much what this is. Maybe a little bit, but I mean, you're just writing about real estate, the same thing about selling your house, and it gets a little bit boring. So I just hire ghostwriters now.
Nice. And for those out there who don't know what ghostwriting is when you have another person write for you on behalf of you. And even if it's localized to your specific market, understanding that anyone can write it really, but I can do all the research. I can look at it. I might not know the intricacies, details that you do, but why don't you tell me those? And then I use that information to write it for you. And then you can read it and vet it out. And those people, the professional writers, know how to write keyword specific. They know how to write content. They know how to create a captive moment to capture their essence of it. And those who can do it really well, it really works because now you're storytelling and you're providing value. You're sharing real estate knowledge. You're making it fun and easy on your website. And hopefully that translates to better SEO too.
Definitely. And it is, I've just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
No worries. I'll speak on behalf for you, but creating that content right there, when you start investing in this content, it's evergreen. You can reuse this every day forever, right? So if you do an advertisement, the advertisement is in and out. You spend X amount of money. You buy an advertisement from Zillow or someone else, you spent it, it's gone next month, right? That money's gone. But your
Yep.
writing is there forever. It can be there
Right.
forever. And guess what? If I'm searching for a word today, someone's gonna be searching for that same exact topic tomorrow or the year after. But in the
Yeah.
advertisement, it's gone.
Yeah, and that's a thing too, like a kind of a good tip. And if I do have a more important piece of content that I'm like this, I want this to rank really well, I'll even create my own outline for it and give it to the writer so that I'm like very specific on the points I want us to hit. And then one of the good things about it, you're saying like, articles that have sit there and aged, if you do start to lose rankings on them, going in and editing those articles, updating them a little, maybe adding some pictures and some new links is a really good way to get them to move back up on the rankings too. So
Nice.
it
That's a
is like
good point.
an older content you can continue to use.
That's a really good point too, because I don't think people out there realize that just because you wrote the article once doesn't mean you can't revisit it, re-optimize it, update it,
Mhm.
change it a little bit to improve the results of it. If you know you wrote a great piece, but no one's reading it, something's wrong. And then figuring out what's wrong with it, investing time into it to see how you make it better. And that's important too. And that's part of your business, right? You're investing into your marketing. So I would say, for example, for those out there who don't want to do any of this, consider finding and working with people who can do it for you and you can pay, but make them a part of your team over time. You're investing into that team to improve your marketing business, which creates a cheaper cost per lead, creates hopefully higher conversion ratios, easier conversations, more appointments, and it's a long-term result of it. But like SEO, you can't do it overnight. There's no such thing as like, okay, in 24 hours, I'm gonna be done. I can get hundreds of leads.
Right.
That's not it. It's
No.
time.
Yep. Exactly.
So like when you started writing this content and putting pieces out there, how did you determine what to do for the search engine optimization? How did you decide how and figure out how to optimize it?
Yeah, so for me, I always so I started in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is my main market, and started building. So what you kind of essentially want to think of is each page of your website is um, an opportunity to find people or for people to find you based on a keyword, right? Whether it's sell my house fast, we buy houses, sell my property and probate quickly, something like that. You want to think of each page as an opportunity for like almost a specific situation, and build out from so that you make a new page for a new situation to give your audience as many opportunities to find you, and build it out so that like you want anybody who's searching within Los Angeles, no matter what kind of issue that they have, you optimize for that. And then another thing that I also was like kind of important to me is building out. So most people, even if they're living in Los Angeles County, there's people who live actually in Torrance, and maybe they don't type out sell my house fast in Los Angeles. They do sell my house fast in Torrance instead. So making lots of different city pages so that people find you for different areas too, right? You just want to have each page to be you want as many pages as possible for as many situations as possible, right? In different ways people can find you.
Nice, because now like the keyword you just said was, helping people find your business and selling, right? So having many pages relating to them and what their needs are. So a great point, like you mentioned at first, is that based on location. So if you're writing specifically for my location, I'm more likely to find you. But if you told me Los Angeles is so huge, I can be in a small sub district of it. And what that entails is the short titles versus long titles, right? Long tail titles.
Yep.
So if you start creating long tail titles, then it's more easier than a short tail, like short tail real estate, buy real estate. None of
Right.
us are going to win. None of us are going to win on that one.
Right.
So you type in, okay, buy real estate in Torrance, California. Then people are going to probably type that in because they know if I want to look for something, I can't type a generalized word in. It won't be specific. But if I type a specific word in, which is to a smaller population, I'm more likely to find what I need.
Right.
So typing that in, okay, great. I want to sell my condo in Torrance. You type that in, or for cash, and then you might pop up first. So you created the content for that exact title that they were looking to do.
Right. Yep. And you brought up a really good point on the longer tail keywords. Those ones are much easier to rank for, right? Something that's much more specific versus selling my house, right? But what if like selling my house for cash in Torrance, right? That's something much more specific. So it's going to be easier for you to rank above, the real estate giants like Google, or like Zillow, or right.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned, in the long tail version of it. Now, what happens is not only the title, the keywords, and then the content behind it, the descriptions, the values behind it that relate to that keyword will create a higher ranking.
Right.
So then it gets fun because you start realizing, hey, I'm providing value. I'm basically answering questions. I'm putting out information there. These keywords are what people are looking for. And the next thing of it is, how do I make it better? Well, I start doing it for every single city, condo type, whatever type, development type, property. And then people start finding your website. And then, this SEO starts building up, and you start seeing your rankings, and you start seeing performance of which pages are doing better, how they're doing, how long people are on it. If people are on it and they leave in the first second, your bounce rate is higher. So then that's not good. Why did they leave? Was it the content? Maybe. Was it the pictures? Was it the title? Or was it the web server? You don't know unless you start looking. So you start analyzing the analytical side of things. But, in a sense, if you're a busy salesperson, then you might not have the time to do it, but you have to have a team who understands what you're trying to invest in. And if they do, then they start optimizing these. So you're optimizing your search right here and these things as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sounds fun. It sounds like more on the geeky side of things. It's fun. It works. And then it's just a matter of investing on it. Okay, so now you have this web content page, you have this SEO behind it. How do you start seeing what kind of results are you getting?
What kind of results am I getting, or
or in general, like, how do you see it? How do you know what's doing good, what's doing bad?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So a good way to monitor that is just like from your keywords. And there's different kinds of trackers that you can put into, like Ahrefs is a really good one that I use. There's a Site Check Pro or something like that. You could Google just keyword tracker for your website, and you could put all of these keywords that you do want to rank for. So whatever your pages are optimized for, right? Keep a running list of all these keywords, and you plug them into a checker system, and it'll tell you where you rank. And so like if you're spot 1, you're number 1 on the first page. If you're 22, you're the second one on the second page. So anything that's, I would say, even halfway down page 1, it's really not going to get very much traffic. You're really aiming to be on the first, second, and third spots. Because after the first spot, it just keeps dramatically decreasing the amount of traffic that you're going to see on those pages. So SEO, that's kind of one of the things that I always like about SEO is like, there's really only one number 1, right? You know where you rank in terms of that. And sometimes you are number 1 for like a page, but it really, depending on how frequent the search volume is for that set of keywords, you might not see too much traffic from it, right? That's why you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket for just like one page. You want to have as many pages as possible to give people the most opportunities possible to find you.
That's a fun topic too, because you just mentioned keyword volume. And what do you mean by volume? Search volume, right? So how many people are often typing that keyword in your area? I think a fun game everyone should play is this. In a sales team and a wholesale team is, think about your market. Think about every single word that someone would ask you for your market. Put it on a board, for example, and then you kind of like have the board where it has small words and big words. It gets bigger as more people look at it, and you start thinking about, okay, which words are people really looking at for my area, whether it's wholesaling, buying, flipping, whatever, and put that down, and then start optimizing the big words that make sense to your local market. Not real estate exactly, but the whole thing. Like, okay, San Francisco real estate, fix and flip, or cash buying. looking at those long tail keywords and then start optimizing for it, creating content for it, and then ranking it and checking it. But the keyword was looking at the volume. If only 100,000 people are looking at it, okay, it's okay. It's not big, but in your local market, if your population is big, why are so little people looking at it? What happens if it was 500,000, a million, 2 million? Well, that means a lot of people are looking at it. And how competitive is it? Can you rank for it at all? How much advertising is above you?
Right. But, and there's a distinguishment between, okay, search volume, right? But what is the intent behind that search volume, right? Because if you're trying to rank for a keyword like real estate in Los Angeles, that doesn't, millions of people, I'm sure, probably that's a very high search volume kind of keyword, but that's not something I really care to rank for, right? Like that, the intent behind that doesn't necessarily mean I want to sell my house fast, right? So you do want to go for volume, but also volume that has very specific intent that shows that people are actually, have a need to sell, versus people are just looking at, how much houses are going for in Los Angeles. Just maybe they're buying a house, right? That's not somebody I care to find.
That's really true, and a good point too. Like if you think about like even creating a checklist, here's all the things you want to do when you're optimizing for SEO. One of the rules is intent. So if I'm looking for sellers, I would not intend to make content related to buyers directly, in a sense. If I'm looking for sellers, if I'm looking for buyers, great, go for that. But what's the intent behind it? Okay, real estate, like you said, real estate Los Angeles. What's the call to action to that? There is none. But if you type in looking to sell real estate in Los Angeles, the intent was sell. So you had intent there, or invest or buy. Then you're adding those additional words into it. So yeah, you're right. Make sure alongside of all these things, you're looking at intent and focusing on the intent to do what you're asking.
Right.
That's fun, right? That makes you think about this too. And like I can geek out on it all day because you can analyze so many ways. But at the end of the day, I'm a business too. So in my business, I realize I can't spend time doing all this stuff. I need to be on the phone. I need to be talking to people. I need to be networking and selling. So then I need to invest in my team to help me build these things out. I can be the brain, give all ideas, tell them my personal wants and needs, but I need to learn to create a team. I need to learn to invest. I need to learn to work on it. I need to learn to create the call to actions, and also to drive inbound marketing and at a reduced cost. So now that we have that and you start seeing your SEO rankings go up, how do you automate this? How do you apply that to your business? And like, are you using any tools? And you mentioned VAs too are helping you. So the application of automating it to make it easier, what are you guys doing for that?
Yeah. So that is kind of, since my SEO is all in-house, has been, because SEO can be very time consuming, right? And so what I found, what's been most helpful for me, is I do have like an assistant and a few VAs, being very specific about like, this is what you need to do to optimize this page, and really cutting it out like step by step, tiny little steps with really full instructions, because trying to give somebody like a broad sense of it and like, here, now go do this, really didn't work for me, at least. So being very like, okay, this is like checklists of these are the kinds of links to be putting in pages. These are how you build backlinks. This is and just like niching it out into very step by step has been helpful for me for getting VAs to help. But then I do also still use some other like services that will, especially for backlinks. Backlinks are probably one of the more time consuming SEO pieces to do. So that's something that I do tend to hire out more.
Nice. And let's dive into these technical things too. So yeah, checklist of links, backlinks, a niche, your step-by-step process, using the step-by process to guide your VAs on how to do these things that you entail. But at the same time, you were learning these things. You were open to learning how to do it. And if not, you would ask people and ask the right questions of what are they doing to help you build your business. Backlinking wise, there's so many different ways to backlink. There's so many different categories and topics. And we'll give some real life examples too. For example, let's use this podcast as an example. By you coming onto our podcast, and you are providing value. You're providing content. You're sharing your name. You're sharing it to my network. I'm sharing myself to your network. You're creating a backlink from my website, from all the podcasting platforms back to your website. So you just created multiple backlinks by having one conversation with me, right? And it's forever.
Yep.
Isn't that amazing? That just by doing one thing.
I like to be doing podcasts too. They're great backlinks.
Exactly. And like, hey, guess what? For example, okay, Matthew, the Truth About Real Estate podcast advertised me on all their social media platforms to all their networks, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, website and everything. All these links go back to your website because if Matthew put a link into it saying, hey, check out Christina at misspropertysolutions.com, for example, then you got a backlink. So these start adding up. And if I have a popular page and people are looking at my website, then I'm giving you a higher ranking to your website because I am not authorizing you, but I am giving you, credit to what you do, and it boosts your ranking. If my website's bad and no one goes to my website, it doesn't help you at all. It just adds one point, right? Yep. So then your goal as a marketer is, okay, let me go talk to great podcast hosts and see if I can get on their show and talk to them about how I help people. And then, we thank you by putting you on backlinking to you. You might backlink to us as a thank you, right?
Yep, exactly.
So that's the fun part of it. I think for me too. Huh?
I said that's just one kind of backlink.
That's just one kind of backlink. Okay, content backlinking, right? You can use the content pieces you write. You can have writer. You can share your content on a guest blog. Like if you were guest blogging onto popular blogs and you're backlinking to yourself too, and those blog sites get a lot of hits. I think another one people use too is Pinterest. People use Pinterest as a way to backlink to their site. So they have people who are Pinteresting all day, and like, why are you Pinteresting? It's a waste of time. They're backlinking to their website. All the topics they want back to their website, products they want, services they want, videos they want, backlinking to the website. And Pinterest is a huge platform.
Yep.
And what kind of platform is it? It's a platform really based on backlinking.
Yeah. That's all Pinterest is, really.
Yeah, but no one realizes that. They think, oh, just a pretty site, I can look at pictures.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, they all link to somewhere.
They all go somewhere. Okay, so now we talked about that part of it. And some of the tools you mentioned, like, okay, search engine tools, ranking tools, content marketing people, ghostwriting. There's so many different tools to use. It's in a business of itself to be a marketer, right? But the premise of it is that you're creating marketing content and volume of information to provide a service, and the service is buying your house in Los Angeles, for example, as a cash buyer, right? And use this SEO to get people to have a conversation with you. Okay, so now you got my attention. I went to your website. I'm looking to buy a house. I'm looking to sell my house, and I want to sell it fast. What do you do with that new inquiry?
When somebody submits a form, what happens then? Then we call them.
Okay, you call them. And how fast do you call them?
As fast as possible.
Okay. Any time of day?
Yeah, not any time of day. Usually if it's like past 8 o'clock, we'll wait until the next morning to call. Okay. But yeah, during business hours from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., usually you're going to get a call back usually within 5 minutes. If our team is busy, then sometimes it can be as long as an hour, but usually we're right on those calls.
Okay. And is it important to call within the first 5 minutes?
Is it important? Yeah, definitely. Because these people are looking for answers right now. You want to get them while they're have just filled this out and they're thinking about it. They're probably available because they're, they're browsing the internet, right? They took the time to fill out your site. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, we jump on them as quickly as possible. And
what happens if you don't jump on them quickly as possible? Here's a good example. Who are you? What do you want? I don't even recognize it. I set up that form 10 minutes ago. I don't remember that, right? People get distracted. They're busy. And if you don't call it within their first 5 minutes, they forget about you and they moved on to the next person, or they moved on to the next task, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, and there's some people, maybe you called a few hours later and they've already oh no, I've already talked to someone. We're going to sell it to him. And you're like, are you sure you don't want a second offer? And they're like, no. So it's you don't want to lose a deal to that.
So I spent all the time and money investing in my website, but I never called them. Then there's no point, right?
Right.
So calling quickly, because what happens is you're calling to provide a service, and everyone today wants instant gratification. I want you to ship a product to me within an hour, for example. Like I want instant gratification. So if you can call back and talk to them, then you're more likely having a higher conversation, more likely to help them sell their property, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You want to deliver. When you say you buy houses fast, you you want to be able to back that up.
Yeah, I buy houses fast, but I didn't call you for 3 days. Well,
Yeah.
that's not really fast. I already sold my house to someone else who bought it in 7 days, right? You didn't even call me in 3 days. But for you guys, you call within an hour. That's really good. Within 5 minutes, really good. And of course, everyone calls within an hour sometimes. And hopefully, you call everyone on the list. And of course, the more leads you get, the more harder it gets to do that.
Yeah.
So what is the challenging part of generating these leads? And after you generate these leads, how is the conversion to helping them?
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing with SEO that has always kind of been my struggle is that it is harder to scale than other lead generation forms. It just does. Just because you build a page doesn't mean like that means you're gonna get X amount of visitors or X amount of leads. So it is a little bit harder that's been my main struggle with it. But as let's say we usually are able to convert like 1 in 10 leads, and sometimes even less than that, sometimes 1 in 15, depending on like there's some leads where like back to back to back leads, 3 leads in a row is a deal. But on average, I would say like every 10 to 15 leads becomes a deal.
Nice. So, for example, the reason I say nice is this: in real estate sales, it's average is 1 to 110. If you're a top performer, right? Maybe a little bit less, but some new person might be like 1 to 400, right? So, knowing the fact that in a SEO based ranking, inbound marketing, if you can get 1 in 10, that's really good. That's like really good.
Mhm.
And now the challenge you just said is scaling that faster, scaling it to more people. So that's an audience issue. That's an audience and attention issue, right?
Yeah.
And advertising issue. But then the conversion ratio is so much higher that way. I would take 1 in 10 all day if I could,
Oh, yeah.
right? You know?
Yeah. With cold calling, it's like 1 in 50. So I'd rather talk to 10 people and get a deal than 50, right?
Exactly. So that's the main point of it too. And knowing your numbers, it matters a lot. And by doing these things that you're doing, you're creating more benefit to using your SEO. You're knowing your numbers, you're having better conversations, you're making it easier to vet out who wants to buy and sell cash. Okay, so now, okay, I want to sell my house cash. How do you help them sell the house? Like, how do you guys buy it? How do you guys help them? What's the next steps? After I send an inquiry to you, you talk to me. What's next?
So most of our process is like 100% virtual. From there, after we have the first conversation with someone, we need pictures of the house, current pictures of what the house looks like. We usually ask for at least one picture of each room in the house, if you have the exterior and the backyard, stuff like that, just to get a general idea of what it looks like. And then from there, we go and run our numbers, give them an offer. We usually, if they can give us pictures the same day, then we get them the offer the same day we get pictures. And there's even some instances where people don't want to take pictures, and so we can send someone out there if they don't want to take pictures. Or we've even done like FaceTime with people, and then they go around and like give us a tour of their house virtually. But yeah, so from there, we're able to run our numbers, and then we give them an offer, and we usually just have like a very short inspection in contingency, so that we can actually get out there to the property and just make sure everything was like as advertised and closed in whatever timeline they need.
Nice. So yeah, they reach out to you, they provided what they needed, and then you use that information and take a look at their house. And doing buying houses virtually is a lot of work, and it's challenging. But even when they provide you pictures of everything, you see it. It's great to have inspection contingency, because pictures can always kind of be like a little manipulated, more so if they know what they're doing. And then after that, providing them that offer, and if they accept it, then you're taking the property and buying it. And
Yep.
that's nice because they're getting what they want is like, I want to get out of this house fast. I want to move to another state. I want to move to Arizona and I don't want to be in Los Angeles anymore. Then you're
Right.
solving their problem, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and much quicker and much less hassle than like, listing it with a realtor is that's like a kind of a daunting task for a lot of people. If there's first, they don't want um, to show the property, right? Sometimes they they have kids, they have dogs at home. They just like don't have the time to have people in and out of their house. Sometimes people are just super private, right? They just don't want like with listing a house, you're gonna have to do open houses. You get all these looky-loos coming through, and people just don't want to deal with that. And then the other thing is just like having that certainty, right? Especially if you're coordinating a move and going to another state and, changing jobs and stuff. It's hard to not only sell one house, but actually line that up with purchasing another and making sure like the dates align. And when you're working with someone who's buying it like with a realtor, it's a lot harder to do it that way because, you're working with another set of families, their issues and their like needs for buying that house. Whereas with us, we don't really care. We can be at the beck and call of whatever timeline they need. It's not like we have a specific timeline that we need it in, right? Because we do this all the time.
Yeah. And for me as a sales agent, I'm going to say yes and no. And the way I see it is this too. We can
Yeah.
provide cash offers too. My company can provide
True.
cash offers too and do the same thing you're doing. But at the same time, I would say in general, sales, there's different people with different needs. All of us need to figure out what their needs are and if they match what we're trying to do for them. If they need cash and they need to move, they need to sell it, they want to prevent foreclosures or bankruptcies or whatever, you guys might be the perfect solution for that.
Yep.
There's other people out there who say, hey, I want the most top dollar for my house. I'll take a cash offer to see what number it is. I'll compare it to a real estate agent's offers of numbers. And I know that is more work. If it's 10,000, I might not care. If it's 100, 200,000, I might be interested to find out. Backup case, I'll take the cash offer after. But of course, people's priority timelines, we all have to understand that. And, I get people where I sell top dollar on the house because their timeline was anytime you can sell it for me at the highest price, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Some people say, I need it sold tomorrow. Well, tomorrow is really hard. A cash offer would be the best choice for you tomorrow.
Right.
So that makes sense. And, that's the understanding. And there's abundance of people who need something and we're all there together to help them figure it out, what they need. And there's no right or wrong. It's just what you need. As long as no one's shady and says, hey, I'll buy your house for 200 when it's worth obviously 500 or $1 million, right? Like stealing a house. That's totally different.
No, that's not what we do, but
yeah, of course. So, in the last few minutes too, what do you recommend people do if they want to start improving their digital marketing, SEO marketing? What do you recommend? How should they move forward in 2022?
Google, right? Like Google's where especially about, SEO is the process of ranking higher on Google, right? So what does Google say about like all these little questions? That's really how I learned everything to do with SEO. It's just like you watch a few videos on like maybe on YouTube or something, and then if it's some of your first videos on SEO you've watched, you'll start to have lots of questions, right? Maybe they start talking about backlinks and you have no idea what that is. Or so then just like Googling questions like that. And, Google's who we're trying to rank on. So what does Google say about like good SEO practices, right? I think that's always like the best resource.
Yeah, I think Googling, like for me, I love Googling everything because one is you learn a lot from people out there. People are putting content out there. That means has some value of importance to you, whether or not, but you can see different people's opinion on it. And when you start looking at, okay, what's backlinking? What's SEO? How do my website perform better? And you start learning a little bit about it. You don't need to spend 100% of your time, but if you allocated like 5 to 10% of your week to improving your business on that end, and then you started finding people to help you do it, who understand what you researched, and you test it out, then you can start performing better. But that's a way to improve your marketing business, right?
Right. Yep.
That's the fun part. And the last part I want to leave to people too is, understanding Google Web Vitals, understanding how to rank better in performance matters, having your website up within less than a second up, and making sure your GT metrics, your page speed insights are getting high rankings. A lot of websites out there look pretty, but it doesn't matter if your server performance is really low, because guess what? If I can't load it within a second on my phone or my computer, I'm out of there. I'm on to the next person, right? And that drops your bounce rate. That's a fun metrics too. I actually was doing a test. I started hitting 100% performance metrics on these sites, and I'm working on improving my mobile sites now.
Oh, cool.
So I'll show you for a second. I'm going to show you your site if I can share my screen for a second.
Sure.
Let's see if this works. Let's see right here. It's a little bit tricky here. Let me see this window. So for example, let's see this window here. This is your website. If you don't mind, I'm sharing this. You see my screen here?
Yep.
Okay, it's cool. So right now you did on GT metrics, you're 100% performance rate. Your structure is 93. That can probably hit 98. Your LCP, TBT, and CLS, no one knows what that means. But if you look here, it tells you basically in milliseconds how long it takes to perform. Looking at your speed vitals, what are you doing here, and how fast do you get to the first loading time, right? And then you start seeing here, what's your impact? What's the rate? What can you improve? So for example, I look at these details, and this is only being for technical geeks out there. We start looking at these details, seeing what's killing you here. Look at this. This Facebook connection is really bad for you, right? 20-minute cache, or 20-minute cache is okay. You start seeing what's causing your times, but these should be fixed. 1.1 seconds is actually really slow. So your Carrot CDN, Carrot is your provider. And it's a CDN, so a content delivery network could be improved because it shouldn't be that much. It's a CSS file. Do you need the CSS file? Or could you remove the CSS file, see if it improves your files?
Yeah.
Your DOMs are your elements. Could you reduce this? Because 1064 is not bad, it's low. And it's only if you really want to be a true geek and hit 100% of everything just to say I hit 100%. And use the content delivery network. So these JavaScripts are not in your delivery network. These should be moved to your CDN. And you can do that by minimizing it and then moving it to your CDN. That will improve your numbers here. Does it matter if you're already here near 100? Not so much, but at the same time, this is only web performance. How about your mobile performance? So you want to improve your mobile, right?
Sorry.
And then when you look at your page speed insight, you're at 90 right here for your desktop. Your mobile is 54. Your mobile should be at least 80, 70, 80, or 90. So you can start seeing why is the first content to paint 3.1 seconds. So your images here is too big. You can eliminate your render blocking right here. This is 1,080 milliseconds for a 51 kilobyte file. That's too slow. That's a Carrot file too, so you can fix that. It's a CDN.
Yeah, it's really hard because Carrot. Do you have a Carrot site or do you use something else?
No, I use my own site. I use my own WordPress site, but I optimize it to be pretty quick.
Yeah.
I design my own site too. So looking at that on my sites, and I've been playing with it for past couple weeks. Is this fun geeky stuff?
Yeah.
So mine right now is 29. It's actually bad. It's actually when I turn on my CDN, it's actually 85. But I actually made it slower right now because I'm trying to optimize what's not in a CDN to see how I can improve those first before I put it back to a CDN. So the 89, normally it's 95, 98. And then here too, I turned it off right now. So the way for you to like 100% performance, I usually can get 100, I get 0, 0, 0, near zeros.
Mm-hmm.
And then in my hair part is low too. So you see this, I turned it off right now. So that's why you see so many elements. And I'm looking at the element to see what I need to fix before I turn it back on. Because content delivery networks improve your performance, but you're actually hiding what's the real performance if you don't know it. So fixing it first to put it back. So these are all fast now. See zeros? They used to be like hundreds and thousands. I got to do 0. But cool. All right. Anything final words?
Metrics, this is what you're using? I
use GT metrics and I use Google Page Insights, and then I use other tools other site tools alongside with what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check. GT, I've heard of it before, but I've never paid too much attention to it, so I'm gonna check it out now. Yeah,
GT metrics and Google Page Insights, Alexa site tools.
I use Google Page Speed Insights, but Carrot really puts a lot of barriers on what they let you edit. So I'm actually thinking of moving it over to another platform. But
yeah,
Yeah.
Consider. I know a lot of people use Carrot. It just really depends what you're doing and how much performance. But for you, you're based on mobile. You're based on mobile performance too. So for your matter of SEO, since you do SEO, that actually has higher impact on you than other people who don't care. So just consideration. But thank you so much, Christina, on being on our show today. I hope you enjoyed it. How do people reach out to you?
You can find me on Instagram. That's my email, Cristina at Mrs. Property Solutions. You can reach me on my website, which is just mrspropertysolutions.com. And then Instagram is at Cristina Kudlock. And
Cool.
yeah.
Thank you guys so much for being on our show today, the Truth About Real Estate podcast. Be sure to check us out on our website, matthewma.com, or on YouTube. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.